But we are so excited to have you here today. And hopefully all of you have received your financial aid offer. If you have submitted your FAFSA, you should have received something in the mail. And then if you have not, there's also an online in your application portal where you can find your scholarship information. We send one mailed packet, and then every updates after that are done in the online portal. So just make sure that you and your student are checking your emails regularly so that if there is an update, you will find that. This is what you received in the mail. There's a nice little checklist there for you. Anytime that we're talking about financial aid, and if you've seen me present before, you know I love to talk about the 5 sources of financial aid. So whether you stay here and go to PC, which is what you're here to do today, or go to California, there are 5 sources of financial aid. And so this is your checklist that came in your packet. We have these available to you if you don't have it anymore in our office. We're over in the Smith Administration Building, and we'll be happy to give you some more. But you want to use this checklist as a guide to making sure that you're receiving all the sources available to you. The first 3, federal, state, and institutional aid, are kind of the most common and, I say, easier ones to obtain, right? You submit your FAFSA, you qualify for federal aid. If you're a South Carolina resident, you qualify for state aid. And then PC awards institutional aid. But there are many that go left, and that's private scholarships. So we really, really encourage you to apply and search for those private scholarships that can fill the gap. And then self-help, which are your student loans. And that's parent loans, private loans, and federal student loans. So make sure that you're utilizing and researching all of those things as you look for more financial aid. Also in your packet, there was a cost of attendance sheet. 2 things I want to point out here when you're looking at this information. You have the direct costs that are going to be billed to you, and that's at the top part. And then you have indirect costs. These are things that you can prepare for that you may need to pay out of pocket. So your books and supplies, transportation costs to and from campus, personal items. What I get a lot of questions about is the housing piece. So I want to explain that while we're here today. I've already received a couple of questions today. Parents and students say, I see a lot of different housing costs. We do have a tiered housing system here. We have some premium housing at PC that as your student becomes a junior or senior, they have the option to go into some premium housing, and that has a higher cost. And the cost of attendance piece on the sheet, I'm required, it is regulated, that I use an average cost. And so that's why that will differ on this sheet versus what you see that may be billed to you. So on your financial aid offer, there's a net cost calculator, and that is using the standard housing cost, and that is what most incoming freshmen will be placed in, is that standard housing. Okay, so when you see the differences there, know that the cost of attendance is using an average cost of all of the housing that we offer. So as you go through this process and continue on in your education here at PC, if you go into those higher housing, you'll just want to make sure you check with your student to know how much that housing is going to cost from year to year. All right, so how do we close the gap? On that same handout, again, we have these in our office if you need another copy, there are payment options. And so we will send invoices beginning in May, and so you want to pay attention to deadlines. Generally, the cost has to be taken care of by August 1st. And so this provides information on how you can close that gap, and you can use a combination of these things. So if you are able to pay a little bit per month, you can sign up for the payment plan. If you have some money saved up and you want to do a lump sum payment, you can make a lump sum payment, and then whatever you have remaining, you can do in a payment plan. And if you're not able to do either one in a cash option each month or as a lump sum, there are financing options through a parent loan or a private loan. And so you can see all that information here. My office is also open today if you have more questions about those. So what happens next? Well, in a couple of weeks, hopefully next week, we will be sending you emails on documentation to start completing. So you know this is where you want to attend. Those who have submitted their deposit for state aid, there's something called a South Carolina residency form that you have to complete at least your first year, and that confirms your state aid. So if you see estimated beside any of your funds, any of your scholarships that have been offered to you, that generally means we need something else to confirm that. Okay, so here soon we will be emailing you and your student to say, this is available, there's a new student portal that you'll have to log into called Banner Web, and we'll give you all of that information. And so you'll log into Banner Web and start completing all of those forms and all those documents. So make sure you're on the lookout for that in the next week or two. This is where you will also accept and decline your student loans. So right now you'll see if you file the FAFSA, your student loans are offered to you. You'll have the opportunity to accept or decline that on that Banner Web student portal. We have a financial aid handbook, and I encourage you to go out and check it out. Pretty soon we'll have the 25-26 handbook out there. There's usually just some small adjustments, but you can go ahead and check it out. It has things like satisfactory academic progress that you and your student need to know about. So what do I need to do to maintain the scholarships that are being offered to me? Well, you have to maintain a 2.0 GPA. You have to earn 67% of the classes you attempt. It also has information about state aid. If any of you are from South Carolina and are receiving state scholarships, there are requirements for those. So that handbook has really good information on it if you have questions about any of the renewal criteria or just our policies in general. At this time, I'm going to introduce Vicki Wilson. She is our registrar.
So we're going to talk a minute about FERPA. That's a wonderful word. It stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's a federal law. If your child has already turned 18, you've probably experienced that at your doctor's office, even at your child's school. Here at PC and at other colleges and institutions, we can disclose certain information about your child, their name, their major, their address, telephone number, if they participate in athletic events or games, any kind of dean of students activities, anything like that. We can provide that information out to other organizations and businesses unless your child has asked for their record to be confidential. If they have checked that they want their record to be confidential, then we cannot disclose any information. That means if a parent calls and says, I need to mail my child a package for their birthday or something, or Valentine's Day or whatever, but I've lost their box number, can you give it to me? I can't even acknowledge that your child is a student at Presbyterian College because they have checked for their record to be confidential. So we kind of stress that to the students, okay, you're checking confidential, but this is what this means. If your parent calls or emails us and says, I need an enrollment verification to provide to my insurance so that my child can remain covered on insurance, we can't even do that. It prevents us from acknowledging that that child is even a student at Presbyterian College. So then we go one other step once that child turns 18, and that's where the FERPA regulation comes into play. If you call and ask us any information and the child has not checked that they want their information to remain confidential, but you start asking us questions about your child, we get a lot of times, can you tell me child is enrolled in. I need to know some graduation information about my child. Can you tell me that? And unfortunately, I can't release any information if that student has not given me the permission to do so. So you can imagine how that conversation is going to go from that point on if we don't have that FERPA waiver in place for that student. So we tell our students we do have a FERPA waiver form that is on our website that the student can complete, and it tells us who we can release information to and what type of information. Is it academic? Is it financial? Is it residential? Whatever information, they will tell us how long of a range of time we are allowed to release that information. They can get very specific on that waiver form. But the waiver form has to be submitted directly from the student. They can hand carry it to our office, or they can email it to our office from their PC email address. That is the only two ways we will accept that FERPA waiver for us to be able to talk with a parent or a guardian. We do have parents who like to get in touch with some faculty every now and then because they want to know how their students doing. Are they attending class? How are their grades looking? So if the student wants the parent or guardian to be able to talk with other people, they have to provide that FERPA waiver. Now, we try to encourage the student to put how long, if you want your parent to be able to talk with anyone during your 4 years here at Presbyterian College or only for this semester. We had one student who came in and filled out a waiver form at lunchtime one day. And he put on there that he allowed his mother to communicate with anybody on campus until 5 o'clock that very same day. And so we had to honor that. We had to honor that. If that parent calls at 5:01, sorry, we can't speak to you anymore about your child. But I learned from another registrar that when you're talking with parents, or when you're talking with students, sometimes I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a great-grandma now. So sometimes I like to put on that mom hat and I say, now listen, don't you want your mama and your daddy to kind of know what you're doing? Don't you think they want to help you a little bit? And then I might take that hat and put on another, take that hat off and put on another hat when I'm talking to that mama or that daddy, and they say, my child won't tell me anything. I don't know anything that's going on. And I say, do they have a car on campus that you're paying for and you're paying for the insurance?
Yeah.
You're giving them a credit card that they've used and they go get whatever they want to. Give me your keys. Give me the credit card. And I'll give them back to you once you give me your password so I can get into your account. Financials, if you owe me money, so that I'm not being called at 8:30 on a Monday morning because you can't register because you haven't paid the full bill. So give me your keys. I'm taking your vehicle home. So then I have to take that hat off and have to put the registrar hat back on, and I say, okay, now this is where we stand. So that FERPA waiver, that student can submit that FERPA waiver to us, and then we share it with other offices on campus so that they know that we have that waiver on file, and that parent or that guardian can call and talk with anyone on campus. Faculty members will email us and say, I've had a call from such and such as parent. Do you have that FERPA waiver on file so that I can talk with that parent? Yes, we do, or no, we don't. And then we follow up with an email to the student and just say, your parent is wanting to talk with this professor because maybe you're having a problem in that class and we just kind of want to know what it is. So that's why that FERPA waiver is so very important. It's not a piece of rule, it's a federal regulation. to a doctor's office. When I took my 18-year-old to the doctor's office one time, and she's special needs. And so we go in, and she had just turned 18, and the nurse was checking her in, and she said, well, now, Miss Wilson, I can't talk to you, I need to talk to Stephanie. I said, okay. So I stepped back, and she said, Stephanie, I need to confirm your address. And Stephanie might remember the address, but then 30 minutes later, she forgets it. She said, is this your current address? And Stephanie looked at me, and I went, and she said, Stephanie, is this insurance still current on your record? And Stephanie looked at me, and I went, and she said, hey, you have a copay today, so how are you planning on paying for that? And Stephanie looked at me, and I went, and she said, Stephanie, will you sign this form so I can talk to your mom? So Stephanie signed the form and stepped back so I can take care of everything. But that's why it's so important to have, of course, to have that FERPA waiver on file for your child. So let them know that that FERPA waiver is on the registrar's webpage under our student forms, or they are welcome to come by the office and get that form and fill it out so that we'll have it on file. Thank you.
Can we pick those up today?
I will go over to the office and leave some forms. Do you mind if I leave them in your office? And you can take it. Just make sure that the student must bring it back or email it. If they don't have their PC email address yet, then they should just wait for that PC email address. So we have to confirm that it is from the student. And so that's why we ask either they can carry it or they email it from their PC email address. But I will get some forms printed off and leave them in the financial aid office.
All right, I think we have questions, maybe about four minutes for questions. And if anyone else wants to ask, and this is our contact information here, with our email addresses. Any questions? Yes.
When is the information for the state for like the PC fellows going to be updated and available?
So for Palmetto Fellows,
Yeah.
so we receive a list from the state. If you want to email me or stop by our office, Ms. Kate Henderson, who works with our state programs, is here today. And if she's already here, she's already on the list, we can go ahead and add that today. If not, we'll just have to keep an eye on when it gets added. And then, if you are a Palmetto Fellows, South Carolina Palmetto Fellows, they have to designate PC as their school of choice. So there's kind of a two-step process. They have to be on the master list, and then they have to designate us so that the state will send us the funds. So, any other questions? And we are over in the Smith Administration Building where you checked in this morning. So if you want to talk to us privately, or if you have scheduled an appointment, we are over there and ready to help.